don't ever put anything in place for that. So just by their nature, they're going to try to find something else. So we don't never give them great alternatives. When the great Sahabi Mughira, the hadith is in Tirmidhi, it's authentic. He came up to the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam and he said, "O Messenger of Allah, I want to marry this particular lady." He said, "I want to marry this. I want to get married to this lady." This is what Mughira says to the Messenger. At this particular time, memorizing the Quran was absolute priority to them. This was absolute priority, was memorizing the Quran. So the Messenger's response was very, very important. He said, "Idhab fandur ilayha." You go and look at her. Now the reason why he said this, and the youth can't use this to say, okay, well, we should get married, we shouldn't be worrying about, memorize the Quran. No, that's not what it said. There's wisdom behind this. The Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam knew that Mughira had a need, and if he shuts that need off, he opens up the door of shaitan. The doors of shaitan start opening up. So in this particular case, he's saying, go and look at this particular, go and look at this particular lady. So what we do inside of our community, sometimes we don't allow our youth the opportunity, to express themselves, because we put them in this, you have to go to school, which everyone has to get their education. This is something that is not, this is not even something we have to even debate. You have to go to school, and then you have to go into your career, and then when you're 4 years into your career, when you have, I don't know, $60,000, $70,000 saved up, then you can get married because you need to take care of your family. Which this works for some people. Some people this works for. It does not work for everybody. My father has, I got 19 siblings, 19, the number that comes after 18 and before 20. My father had 19 children, 14 biological, and he adopted 6 orphans. Farmer about this. All of the oranges are not going to be ripe. He said, so some of my kids, they went this way. Some of them are like Hanif. Some of them are doctors. I have a brother. One of my brothers is in Azhar. 2 of my brothers are in Azhar. So it's different. It's different paths. So the identity crisis is not allowing our youth to define themselves. The ulama say that you cannot keep the likes of Khalid bin Walid confined to Medina. And if this is a statement that if you know about Khalid bin Walid, you would never ever see him sitting in the majalis of the Sahaba in Medina. He was somewhere else off. That was his destiny. His destiny was to, when you open up these books, Bukhari and Muslim and the Musnad of Imam Ahmad, which is the greatest Musnad, you very rarely ever see the name of Khalid bin Walid. He doesn't have flowery statements. But guess what? If there's no Khalid bin Walid, nobody in here right now is a Muslim. So his path was different. So we have to let our youth express themselves. So they deal with identity crisis, and everybody wants to be loved. Everybody wants to be loved. Everybody wants to be loved. There's nobody in here that doesn't want to be loved. So what happens in this first part that I'm assessing for you, what happens with a lot of our youth is that they find love in other places. And most of the time, and I want to go back to the hadith with Mughira. From this, the Sahaba said, when it came to the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he made it very easy for us to enter Jannah. He said, but the generations later, they made it very, very difficult to enter Jannah. They closed the door of you can't do this, you can't do that, you can't do this. No, you shouldn't be doing that. Focus on school. I think we have become a hyper-educated community, where we put so much emphasis on becoming doctors and lawyers, which is, we need those, and we have built, the immigrant community has been, and I want to say this as a black man sitting here with you, the immigrant community, Desi, Arabs, different parts of Africa, they have been unprecedented in being able to build a community. The immigrant community changed the entire landscape of after 9/11. Because what my forefathers were doing, they could not do what needed to be happen after 9/11. So Allah Azza wa Jal raised up the people from Misr and Palestine and Syria and Saudi that are here, that became doctors and lawyers and engineers. If it wasn't for them, you wouldn't see all of this. So this is the truth that we have to say. This is the truth, and we show them, they have fada'il of haqq upon us because of this. Just like the people before you, they led you up into this point. So I'm mentioning is that, of course, we need to become doctors, engineers, and lawyers, and businessmen and different things like that, because that helped build. But it can't be to the point where it's like, it's so much pressure put on the youth that they lose their identity in the process. Does this make sense? That they lose their identity in process. So when you have the youth losing their identity, they're going to try to find it other places. And when me and my team, Hajj, we ask Allah to bless you too, Hajj, for your services to us, taking us around. Hajj is here in the audience with us now. We put the GPS on to get here. If we turned the GPS off, we probably would have been, on the border of Las Vegas. So what happens with the youth is that when you don't give them space to grow within a comfortable space to grow, you're their GPS. When they start going against what their parents have said, they always are going to be misguided. And so the very first thing that they do, they get these boyfriends and they get these girlfriends. And I can sit down in front of 100 youth privately, one-on-one right now, and they all would give me, if I was to say, what made you get a boyfriend and girlfriend? Do this, but just by our nature. So we have to create these spaces where we can have these conversations and have these real conversations that can affect change here in this society that we are living in now. So that's the crisis. So that's one of the things. That's the one of the major things that our youth are dealing with. The youth that don't have this issues have issues with. We was in Signal Hill with Sheikh Subhanallah. I can't remember the Sheikh. What's the Sheikh's name from Signal Hill, Haji? We was with him, and it'll come to me, inshallah. And I gave an entire lecture. The masjid was filled with youth. It was about drug abuse. And that's another major issue that our youth are dealing with. It's either one or the other, but they both have the same psychological effect. I want to speak academia for a minute with you. Rebellion is rage turned inward. Depression is rage turned outward. When someone's depressed, you can physically see by their physiology that something's wrong with them. Rebellion is invisible. You cannot say, well, I said it the other way around. When somebody is rebelling, you can see them physically rebelling. For instance, an individual will pull up and he's listening to music on Jummah. He's pulling up to the masjid. He knows that he's not supposed, but he's doing that to make a statement. He's pulling up. He knows all of the uncles are going to be out there. This is a very, very blessed day, and he deliberately has his music up just enough so everyone can hear it, because he's rebelling. And he's coming in here. He's taking off he has a T-shirt on, which is nothing wrong with making salat, but he's doing this to make a point. So it's obvious that he or she is being rebellious. With depression, you cannot see it. We don't know whether or not somebody's depressed or not. But they're both rooted in rage. Rage turned inward and rage turned outward. If you Google this, you will see the study on Harvard University did a study on this. And my practicum was done on this, was depression. And I wrote a program called I'm Not Okay that I premiered at Vanderbilt University in 2017. I talked about this what I'm speaking about now, and how our youth are affected by, trying to respond. His son was sitting across from me. He said, "I'm never going to listen to you when you say this." His father is quoting something from the Quran. Is his father saying it's correct? Yes, what he's saying is correct. But you haven't even established anything for you to even give a ruling like that first. The ruling of a mufti is that he has to know the culture of the surroundings before he can start quoting the text. So his son is listening to when I hear him say that, I'm saying, well, this is an ayat in the Quran. This is what Allah said. But his son's going to be like, Yeah, but you don't even ask us how we're doing. It's not even something that you're not even marrying the two. It's not even realistic so we won't even be able to hear it. So let me give you an example from our text. This is very profound. This is amazing. When Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he passed away, something very unique happened with Sayyidina Umar bin Khattab radiallahu ta'ala anhu wa arda. Something very unique happened with him. Go, see his Lord and he'll be back, like Sayyidina Musa went. This is what he's saying, stuff like this. So Abu Bakr and Siddiq comes out, he starts talking. Ibn Kathir, rahimahullah, says they both was talking at the same time. The reason why Ibn Kathir mentions this is because it was a lot of times where they was talking at the same time, but Umar will always prefer Abu Bakr over himself, and he would be quiet and not say. But this time he didn't do that. So most of the people always quote the ayat that Abu Bakr said. But there's actually something that Abu Bakr said before he quoted the ayat. There's actually something that he said before he quoted the ayat. And this is very important. What did Abu Bakr say before he quoted the ayat? Because what Abu Bakr is saying is he's just saying a statement from his own self. He's just saying a statement from his own self. MashaAllah, tabaraka rahman. He said, yes. No one that's living today can speak Arabic like this. He said, whoever worship Muhammad, know that Muhammad has indeed died. But whoever worshipped Allah Azza wa Jal, know that Allah will never die. Now I want you to, let's unpack this for a minute to make this point. Who are the furthest people from shirk? Who were the furthest people from worshiping men? It was the Sahaba. So why did he say that? Why did he make that particular statement? Why did he go that extreme? For one reason, he knows that the nature of people is to love somebody so much that they can become like an idol, like how the other Anbiya before did. So he made that statement, number one. Number two, he said that life has to go on. Allah has fulfilled His promise. Umar bin Khattab collapsed. He said, I swear by Allah that I have recited this ayat so many times, but it's like I heard it for the first time today. Why? Because though he was reciting that ayat, that meant that, the messenger is going to pass the way everybody else passed. Though he was reciting this particular ayat, he had something realistic to tie it to. That's my point of saying that. You see how Abu Bakr married the ayat before he just didn't say, come out and just say the ayat. He first made a statement, then he made the ayat. So the young Sudanese boy who hears the ayat of his father saying this about respect, his father never married anything to it. He just quoted the ayat. So therefore, the young Sudanese man is just like, I'm never going to listen to you with this. We don't even have a relationship where we can even have this type of dialogue. The relationship doesn't even exist. Alaikum salam. So that's being able to contextualize the text. So Allah Azza wa Jal gave us a balanced path to traverse, which is this deen. He gave us this deen. And what's happening is that you are seeing our youth live double lives. And what I mean when I say double lives is that their real life is on social media. And that's a life that you probably don't even know nothing about. And most of them have two accounts. They have an account for my parents to see, and they have my real account about how we speak. And why is this? I deal with this all the time. I sit with families all the time, and people ask me, they say, Imam Hanif, why is there a disconnect between me and my child? And I'm only going to say this to you, and it's a very difficult thing. I'm a father. I've been a father for 20 years. I was a very young father. This is not easy for me to say this. Trust enables communication. This is the first principle in psychology that they teach you. Trust enables communication. If there's a disconnect between you and your children, it's because they don't trust you. It's as simple as that. This is not something easy to say. But once you're able to accept it, I'm going to give you, so my father passed, rahimahullah, when he was going through they was diagnosing him from cancer, the lady came in, and when she came in, I'll never forget what he said. He said, "Lady, do not give me anything politically correct. Tell me what's wrong." And she said, "You have cancer." He said, "How much time do I have to live?" She said, 5 months. He said, "Okay." And he went home. My father passed in 80 days after that. He did not go through the chemotherapy and he died within we was around him when he passed. And his last words was like, I'm letting y'all know that I'm ready to meet Allah right now. That was his last words. But the point that I'm making is that if you want 19 years old, she's coming at me with a lot of contemporary. She's in Ohio State. It's a world of its own. She's seeing LGBTQ classmates, and she wants to give me all these fatwas. Every week is about something else with this lady. So the other day, she calls me up, and we're having a talk or whatever the case may be. And she started talking, and I said, "Yeah," because she said, "You see what you just did?" I said, "What?" She said, "You cut me. You interrupted me." But I was only clarifying something, like telling her to talk louder or something. But she said, "You do it so much as subconsciously." She said, "And I don't like this about you." So at that point, I said, the conversation back. The ability of not being able to listen to what they have to say. That's a disconnect that I had, even though I communicate with my children. So one of the things that happens is the disconnect is there. So when there's this disconnect there, the trust is broken. So you're going to find probably your children, especially if they're of age, some of their advisors that they advise on life, you would be disgusted about. You wouldn't believe that they're even going to them for their advice. But so you say, why are they going to them for advice? And then they start telling you about, this person lets me be myself. I'm comfortable with them. I trust them. They'll never judge me. They start saying things like this. And then you say, well, don't I have those things? You don't have those things, because if they did, they would come to you. Because by nature, a person, these kids that just came in here said, "Hey, Baba, it's by the nature to go to their parent. It's by nature, it's part of their fitrah that they do this." So once that can remain there until, like for me, for my father was my greatest advisor. I can ask him about anything, and he would tell me about it. There was never a disconnect between us. So that's one of the things that that's one of the contemporary challenges that we have here. The other thing is that my generation, and I'm younger than probably most of you, but I'm older than the millennials. The issues that I am having, the issues that I had, that Imam Siraj Wahaj and Sheikh Hamza Yusuf, those were our shuyukh, are different than what they're having. And I'm going to give you an example. Ibn Taymiyyah spent a lot of time talking about Ar-Rahmanu ala arshi istawa. He spent a lot of time on this. He spent an extensive amount of time on it. He kept writing, and some of his critics, even love him, said that we think that he went a little bit overboard. But if you understand what he was dealing with at the time, you can understand why he's talking about that. So the students of knowledge that come from these universities and they want to talk about this, I said, I said, I'm here in America. You just came from Saudi Arabia. I don't know when the last time you said, Sheikh Hanif, is Allah above his throne? This is not even something you should even be paying attention. You should know about it, but it's not even something. They're talking about other things, sexuality, politics, you know what I mean? You know, if Allah even exists, that's something that we're dealing with now. Sheikh Suhaib Webb, I was here when he was here for New Year's. As a matter of fact, he spoke about me in the khutbah because I came to support him all the way from Los Angeles. But he spoke about this too. He touched on it, but he didn't go into it. He didn't go into deep. But I know Sheikh Suhaib enough. He's a good friend of mine that but I don't even think people even heard it. But he mentioned this. But just to give you an example, she said, hey, Baba, I got... Because we live in America, we're coexisting with them. This does not mean you go to their parades, you eat rainbow cookies. That does not mean that. You're coexisting with. So if you have a classmate that's living in this community with that particular lifestyle, you don't get up and ruin your finals because of that. They're in the room with you. So just give... Oh, she said, oh, okay, because I was on, IslamQA.com and they gave me... I said, listen, ask your scholars that live in the country. Because it's different. So we're dealing with these particular issues. As far as what I was saying before, the haram relationships, which is much more prominent than what you probably can think about. And if you think that it's not your child, it probably is your child. I'm just going to be honest with you. I'm not going to, try to make it seem like it, because I deal with all of these cases. I dealt with, one of my teachers was from Egypt, so I love my Egyptians. And I dealt with a case in Portland, Oregon of an Egyptian family, beautiful young boy who wants to become a doctor, and when I went there to lecture, their parents kind of like told me, they kind of like each other. I said, okay, all right, we'll have them call me. And they started to talk to me, these two 15 and 16-year-olds started to talk to me privately. And it's much more severe than what they thought it was. And their mother called me up and said, after we talked and I told her everything, she said, my son said something really, really weird. Like, she said, we have a whole bunch of scholars that come, and she said, but Sheikh Hanif really he didn't mention any Quran ayahs when he was talking to me. This is very profound to mention. And she said, so what did you say to him? I asked him how his day was. What's he do every day? Does he like basketball? Does he like LeBron James? I was just talking to him like that, just as a big brother. And actually, when he got on the phone with me, he said, oh, Sheikh Hanif. I said, man, call me Hanif, man. Just breathe, take it, be comfortable. And then he started to open up. So have we created spaces where they could be comfortable? That's the number one thing. Have we created spaces within our household, and not only in the masjid, within our household, about this? We have to be on the front line of addressing these problems unapologetically and not pretending as if they don't exist. Because they do exist and they are real, and they are hurting our youth tremendously. And I want to be, and I'm shy of even saying this, but I want to say this to you because I'm sitting in front of you right now. Would we rather our youth commit zina as long as they're getting their degree? This is a question I want you to ask yourself in the silence of your own conscience, because some people become a doctor and I'm going to turn a blind eye to everything. That's not being said, but that's basically what they're getting from it. When Umar bin Khattab, let's talk about titles. When Umar bin Khattab when he was bleeding out and his life was coming to an end, he said something very interesting to Abdullah ibn Umar, his son. He said, I want you to go ask Aisha for the spot next to both of my friends. And he kind of was fading away as he told his son this, because he was in and out of consciousness. But as his son went to go to the threshold of the door to walk out, he gained his consciousness. He said, oh yeah, don't you dare say that the Amirul Mu'mineen said this. Now say that Umar said this. So titles are only worth so much. So is it that important? Is it that important to the point where it's affecting their akhirah that they become a doctor? But I'm only going to use it because I'm speaking English. They find purpose in these relationships. So Ibn al-Qayyim wrote a book about the 7 dangers of shaitan. I want to talk about number 5. I just thought about this just now. He said shaitan he'll create something halal for you, like something permissible, and he'll be But it's something good that you can do. It's something like, let's say, for instance, you're looking at a lecture on YouTube, a religious lecture or whatever the case may be. He said shaitan will make you so engulfed in that. This is one of the tricks of shaitan. Everyone should give a class about this, because shaitan is extremely intelligent. He said he will make you so engulfed in this lecture about salat. You're listening to Mufti Muhammad. It makes you ignore the wajibat for something that is just good. So for our youth, it always starts off as that, hey, how you doing? And it could be, hey, she's Muslim. Then it goes to another level. And he keeps taking them to, or I should say, darakat and not darajat. Darajat is the levels in Jannah, darakat is the levels in hell. So you're going actually down like that. So we have to create these areas where they can actually be themselves. Most of the youth in this country, and I'm here to tell you now, again, I have 526 cases of the youth from most of all of the 50 states, definitely the major cities. I'm here to tell you now, most of them are suffering from identity crisis. They're trying to find themselves, and they're lost. And I'm not talking about an identity crisis like going through the development of maturity. I'm not talking about that, where you're trying to find your identity, your voice, what you want to be. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about actually trying to find their purpose with it in life. And they're not being steered clear the right way. And their emotions are ignored. They don't have any say-so. And this is creating, it's almost, you can't see it almost. I went down to Hurricane Katrina in 2005. I was down there for my birthday, mashallah. And we stopped. We didn't go down there with no organization. There was really no ICNA or nothing like that at this particular time. And so we went down there by ourselves from South Jersey. And so we just, like, whatever neighborhood we go. So we stopped in this affluent neighborhood, $1 million houses. And now never forget what this man said. And I'm saying this to say that some things you can't see. So he said, can you help me with this tarp to put on his roof, because his roof was damaged. And one of the people from the community said, the Muslims are on their way here. So we were just in t-shirts and cargo pants, our beards and stuff like that. And she said, I'll never forget, the lady said, it looks like y'all walked out of the Bible with y'all beards. It was like a joke that she said. But she was happy to see us, because nobody was coming in that area at the time. This is before FEMA came, and even Bush flew his helicopter over there. So this particular fairly young man, maybe 35 years old, pretty successful, probably a doctor or engineer. The tarp fell as we was taking it to his house. And he turned around, and as we was putting the pieces back, because it was rolled up, it was a bunch of tarps rolled up, but it had the little coils on it, so the coils popped. So as we was doing the coils, he stepped in, he kind of like exhaled. He said, brother, in his Louisiana accent, he said, I'm going to tell you how all of this happened. He said, look around. He said, this happened in 2 minutes. He said, the wind. He said, I've never experienced nothing like this ever in my life. He said, I'm not somebody who even, I don't know if he said he believes in God. He said, the roof came off my house like you peel icing off a tasty cake. He said it happened in about 120, between 60 and 90 seconds. I'd never seen anything. He said, you didn't even see it. It like everything went black and everything was gone. He said, you seem to be man of God. He said, I'm so happy, men of God, I'm so happy that y'all were here. The point about what I mentioned is that you can't even see what's happening within our youth. It's so dangerous, but before it's over, it's a hurricane and you have all of this damage that you have to try to assess. So we have to begin these open conversations with them to do this. In a few minutes, I'm going to open up the Q&A, because I just wanted to touch on these issues right here. And we cannot be shy to have these conversations. So in this conversation I'm having with my daughter Hania, I'm saying, she said, yeah, because you don't even know what I'm going through. You don't even. So when she's saying that, I said, okay, all right, let me be quiet now. I put the phone on mute because I didn't even want her, because I was taking a walk, I didn't want her to hear the 405 going above me or whatever. And she said, yeah, you don't even know what I'm going through. I'm not even telling you what I'm going through when I'm up here at campus. That's what she's saying to me. I said, okay, it's something serious. I created space for her. So I gave her 80 minutes of my time. And not of my time, this is my daughter, but I'm just saying that type of time, she needed that. When I hung up the phone with her, she sent me a text message that made me cry. And what parent doesn't want to hear this? She said, I had the greatest conversation I ever had with you in my life today. Allahu Akbar. And I joked, I said, well, we talked for 80 minutes and you probably talked for 75. I don't know if it was that much of a conversation, but the point about it, she was able to get these feelings off without me. And she said some stuff that was religiously unsound, but that's for later for me to address. So, not now. There's a qawaid in fiqh. It's called the masalih and the mafasid. It's a principle in fiqh of the pros and cons. When you say something, Imam Shafi'i said, I reached a level in knowledge where I'm afraid to say something that's haram. To tell somebody. So she said some things that I didn't like in that particular 80-minute discourse that she gave me. But that's not, I said, if I correct her now, she's going to be like, this man he's not even listening to anything. So I just, I was on chill. Like, okay, all right. And next time we speak, I'm going to address some of the theological mistakes that you made in this. I mean, like, she mentioned, like, I feel peace in my heart. Sometimes I don't want to make salat. Like, stuff like that. And so I'm like, just think about that for a minute, especially if you're from Egypt. Think about how an Egyptian parent's like, what did you say? They hit you with the darra, with like a stick. So I'm having this, I'm like, okay, this is interesting. But she's just letting her feelings out. And saying with Quran and Sunnah sometimes, I do agree with people going somewhere where there's peaceful and stuff like that, but I believe in the masjid itself. This is what the Prophet ﷺ established. I believe, so you'll always see me invite the youth back. And I go to the third spaces. I went to the Adam Center in Washington, D.C., and I said, oh, yeah, this is kind of like a cool place, but, it's a lot of things that we shouldn't be doing inside the masjid. But they feel like, hey, look, we're going to do our own thing. We don't need we got our parents' masjid and we got our masjid. No, this is not the way it's supposed to be. You're supposed to be in here with your parents. You can't build a ICE dot 2.0. This is you come in here, but it has to be a space. It has to be a space where they feel comfortable at. And so the sunnah is that when you look at Bukhari and you look at Muslim and you look at the hadith and you say, all of these people felt comfortable with coming to the messenger with this stuff. The stuff that they were asking him, the lady who had epilepsy, some of the most shyest and humble women, the Sahabiyat, said that I have epilepsy, and when I have these seizures, my clothes, I'm exposed. This is not easy for one of the Sahaba to come up to the messenger, but that's how comfortable they felt with him. They'll tell him everything. About when they was drunk last night. All types of things that they dealt with. And that's why they say he made it easy for us to enter Jannah. He said, but the people, before is going to make it difficult for people to enter Jannah, but they're going to make it easy for the people to enter the nar. Wa ya'udhu billah. This is how we think, and this is what's happening with our youth. And this is not something small. Just like, oh yeah, he's just smoking weed or whatever the case may be. No, it's not nothing small. It's not. These things are nothing small. These are big things. It's going to lead to other things. And very few youth, and I hate to say this to you all, but I guess I love saying it, because it's an assessment. No youth is only smoking weed. That's not only, they're making all their stuff. They're waking up, they're fasting money, and they're just smoking weed. It's other things attached to it. So for you to even be naive like this, it's foolish for you. And you need to take a step back and you need to do muhasabah of yourself, self-inventory of yourself and how you are as a parent. Because this conversation I had with Hania 10 days ago, it's been playing itself in my head. And I was like, okay, all right, she has a point here. She asked me, she said, what do you think about that? I said, you made some points that was correct. I said, the majority of the things you said was correct about me. Her assessment, her criticism of me, her viewpoint of me, her ijtihad of me, if you will, like how she's viewing me. It's her own perspective. And she said, I just want to let you know, I do love you too. It's just that these are the things that are the truth about you. And she said, oh yeah, I never can have this conversation with with my mother. America, there has been a prototype that has been set before them. They have to follow this path, but at the same time, we have to meet them halfway. We have to be gentle with them. We have to understand what they are dealing with. I was telling one of the young brothers he came from overseas. He said, can you talk about music and the permissibility of music? I said, this is the least of our issues. There's people waking up asking if Allah exists. This is the least thing that we should be even thinking about. If somebody has a hijab on, if this person, these are small issues in the grand scheme of everything. But, so if you go back and say, well, this is how this scholar did it, I said, you don't understand the context of what was happening at the time. That was a major thing that they had to deal with. And therefore, that's why their books was written on that. When Yasir Qadi, when Sheikh Suhaib Webb writes a book, it's going to be completely different from the scholar from 400 years ago, because they're dealing with other things. It's going to be dealing with. We have number 45 inside of, we have number 45 inside of the White House, who looks like he's probably going to get reelected, and he's going to turn into a complete lunatic when he gets reelected. He's going to be we're going to see a Fir'aun. Well, he's our Fir'aun. That's exactly what he is. And I don't mean to be political here, and this is only Hanif J. Williams speaking for itself. I don't represent the masjid or anything else, even though I'm always here as a guest. But I'm just mentioning that he's going to turn into a Fir'aun. He's going to turn into complete destruction. So we have to have conversations with this, because this affects our youth. They see all of this stuff. They're looking, this. Sheikh Omar Suleiman, a super good friend of mine. I'm so happy that he gave the Jummah today on Kobe Bryant. I'm so happy that so you think, why does a scholar like that, because he understands what's happening in his community, so many youth are affected by this. And people say, oh yeah, he's just some non-Muslim who was a celebrity. Like, no, they're affected by this. Find out why they're affected by it. And then you understand why this great scholar gives an entire Friday khutbah on Kobe Bryant. To us, he's just somebody, okay, yeah, whatever. He played basketball and, he's on with his life. So this is what I wanted to mention, inshallah. I'll open up the Q&A just for a few minutes. Again, I thank you all for your time. And I always love coming this. I was telling my fiance before I walked in here, I was telling her how I love coming to this community. And I gave the khutbah here not too long ago. I love it right here with our sheikh, and I appreciated it. I thought it was something. The masjid was like little, but it looked like Times Square out here. I got on the phone with my daughters. I said, look, they got food trucks. Because I'm from South Jersey, we got food trucks. I said, you wouldn't believe it. It's like we're back home. They got food, just halal food trucks outside. She said, take a picture for me. So I'm taking a picture. Everybody's looking at me like, why is he taking a picture in front of a food truck? I'm just trying to connect. It was unbelievable in here. MashaAllah, Tabarak Rahman. Allah Azza wa Jalla has blessed this community, and He's going to continue to bless the community. Let's all help. Everybody has a responsibility. In closing, everybody has a responsibility. The youth are wrong, ijtihad, and perhaps some of our elders are not correct in how they're looking at things. You have to come off of your cultural. I want to be careful how I say this. This is the best place to raise people is in these countries as far as the deen goes. But understanding the culture of the society. I was sitting with one Egyptian young boy I was counseling when I was in Portland's a very big Egyptian community. I love the doctor who hosted me at his house. The family had me there, and we had we had all of the Egyptian dishes or whatever. So I felt like I was in Egypt. So yes. And we had that, and we had the eggs and everything. It was beautiful. And this young boy said to me, he said, I hate speaking Arab. He said, I guess my parents is Egyptians, but I don't even really want to be Egyptians. I said, if I was to say the name Salman, I said, would you know what I'm talking about? This is what I'm telling him. He said, no. I said, if I was to say Salman al-Farsi, would you know what I'm talking about? He says, yes, you're talking about the great Sahaba. I said, why did the messenger put al-Fars at the end of his name? Because he never wanted him to disconnect from where he was from. This is the sunnah for you to say that you're from Egypt. It's the sunnah for you to say you're from Palestine. It's the sunnah for you to say that you're from Crenshaw, Long Beach, black, white. It's the sunnah for you to say this. What are you talking about? This is what the messenger said. Suhaib al-Rumi, he mentioned these things, on purpose. So they never disconnect from where they're from. That's because the messenger, he wasn't into changing people, he was into making them better. I said, so for you to say something like this, I said, how far back can you, I said, how many of your grandfathers do you know? He said, I don't know, like 6 or 7. I said, for you to say something like that, I said, you are like destroying all of this. That's how your father's looking at this. You know how many grandfathers I know of mine? 1. Because my salsala, my sanad was destroyed because of slavery. It only goes to my father's father. That's it. I don't know anything beyond him. So you telling me that you know 6 of your great grandfathers? You should be happy about this. I said, so my advice to you, don't ever say that you don't want to be an Egyptian. Don't ever. You should say, I'm a proud Egyptian. And you're proud of me. These two things can coexist. These two things can coexist. And he said, Sheikh, I never looked at it that way. I said, it's sunnah for you to say this. I said, so when you say stuff like that to your parents, that's what they're thinking about. All of their grandfathers, all of their grandmothers, all of what they did. I said, some of your grandmothers and fathers back in the day wasn't that very educated. They were poor, and they got you up until this point. So what are you talking? So that's how I speak to them on that end. I said, so the foundation will remain like that. So on the parent side, understand that it's the American culture too. But we're not going to allow your children say, I don't want to be from Syria, I don't want to be from Palestine. This is blasphemous to say that. This is what delivered you. These countries preserved Islam. These countries have, just like in India, where all of the hadith was preserved. For someone to say, I don't want to be no Desi, I hate being Pakistani. What are you talking about? Where did this come from? We're not going to allow this type of talk. And so therefore you're not restricted. One last thing I wanted to say, I wanted to mention this before we open up. I told my daughter, because she's very intelligent, these kids are like, I got to take a nap after I talk on the phone with her. I mean, she's like this super, and I had to say, mashallah, I can't believe that it's not even yani, and illa wa ya'udhu billah. There was a group of Muslims one time 1,000 years ago, they would sit and think, what would Allah's face look like? We wonder if he has eyelashes and eyebrows. Wa ya'udhu billah. Because this is what happens when your intellect is running and in America, and that's one of the things we need to talk about. In America, everything's under. Should you just be who you want and you can just it's all accepted? No. In Al-Islam, our intellect is even restricted. Umar bin Khattab said, when he was given that famous talk, he was going to Salatul Asr. And the young boy stopped him and said, these women are making the mahr too high. We can't marry them. So Umar bin Khattab, he would say the ayat in the Quran, talking about the kintar, a lady can ask for a treasure. Umar bin Khattab said, لِكُلِّ نَاسِ أَفْقَهُ مِنْ Umar. Everybody in there has a better understanding than Umar. He submitted himself. You see how his intellect stayed inside the boundaries of the Quran and the Sunnah? He didn't go beyond that, because he went actually beyond that. He went beyond the Quran. He went beyond the Quran, and the lady brought him back and said, wait a minute. You're getting ready to give a fatwa that if we agree to this is going to be affected years. She said, no, Allah said something different. And he said, oh. And then part of another riwayah is that he said, subhanallah for Umar bin Khattab, he said, this man is weak and this lady has been stronger than me. She defeated me. Meaning basically that she is correct and I am wrong. He did not let his intellect just go all over the place and he can, no, I'm staying within. That's why Imam Abu Hanifa said, I have many, many followers. I have many, many followers. Imam Abu Hanifa said 2 things. He said that when this is Imam, the big Imam Abu Hanifa, our Imam that everybody loves, in quotes. He said that when I have a problem in this deen, this is Imam Abu Hanifa speaking, rahimahullah. He said, when I have a problem in this deen, the first thing is I spend weeks looking for the answer in the Quran. Then I spend weeks looking at the statements of Rasulullah. I spend weeks doing this. And then I look at the statements of the athar of the Sahaba, the statements of the Sahaba. And then after I don't find it there, I never ask nobody else what their opinion is. He said, I'm not going to ask somebody else what their opinion is. He said, I haven't found it there. They didn't want people to just say anything. Your intellect has to be restricted. And this is what happens when it's just like, why can't we do this? They are nice people. What does that mean, that they're nice people? That doesn't mean anything. That somebody is nice. Allah Azza wa Jalla never talks about people just doing good deeds. He always talks about doing good deeds and then other acts after that. Allah Azza wa Jalla says in Surah Al-Fatir, which is the 35th surah in the Quran, that's the 10th ayat. That's on page 435. He says, "Man kana yuridul izzata falillahi izzatu jami'an." What's the very next part of the ayat? The very next part is people who have good speech, have good accent. This is what Allah Azza wa Jalla is saying. It's not just Allah gives honor to whoever He wants to, because anybody can claim that. But He actually said it backwards. It's supposed to be said the other way around. If you have good speech, if you have good action, then Allah Azza wa Jalla will give you honor. He said it actually the other way around. And this is what this is about. You cannot let your intellect run unrestricted. So sometimes you need to bring your children back and say, hey, wait a minute, what'd you just say? Like, nah, that's not cool. So this is what I wanted to mention. We'll open up the Q&A. Again, I thank you. I try to do my best to serve you. I talk fast. I'm from South Jersey. Forgive me. It's always a pleasure to be before my shuyukh. Some of you I've seen countless times before. And also the akhawat, the Muslim lady. There is nothing that walks the face of the earth that's more precious than a Muslim lady. She's able to give birth to nations, and she's able to put up with our foolishness and raise our not so. Our kids are kind of heavy, and active, so she's able to do this, and we thank you for your service. And I'm with Sheikh is just the fact that everything doesn't work for everybody, for every generation, every culture. and we are faced with, and I believe too that the more options that you have, the more you're going to, getting to, issues. The Prophet ﷺ was with Umar ibn Khattab, to your point, and this is to solidify your point. And they went into like a garden or whatever, and there was a gate there, and the messenger told, he wasn't with Umar ibn Khattab, he was with Abu Hurairah, and he said, whoever comes in this gate next, Abu Hurairah, I want you to say that they were promised Jannah. And Umar ibn Khattab was the one that walked to the gate, and he punched Abu Hurairah in his chest, and he fell down. And Abu Hurairah radiallahu ta'ala anhu wardah, he came to the messenger, he said, he told him what happened. And the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, came to Umar and he asked him why he did that. He said, if you go around saying that everybody is going to be in Jannah, Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said nobody is going to want to work for it. Giving somebody, so the same thing of what you're saying, creating a privilege for them, where everything's so easy for them. They can just do everything, got all of these options. So there does need to be structure, but that structure has to be met with some type of, obviously, some type of, you have to meet them halfway, and you have to listen to what they're saying. So, like I said, it's always, mabsudan sautik, hearing you, it's just beautiful. I mean, so I want to definitely appreciate that. Alhamdulillah. Anyone else? Again, we have, as we begin to take a few more, we have, our challenge is a big challenge. What works in your household works in your household, but at the same time, we're dealing with major issues on all levels, and you have to hear what the youth are saying. And some of it is foolishness. When you listen to them, some of it is like when I told my daughter, I said, this kind of stuff, like I have peace in my heart, why do I have to make salah? I mean, this stuff is like, I never would say that to my father. That's something that I would never mention to my father. You know what I mean? I mean, so yeah. Any questions on our lady side? Questions, statements? MashaAllah, MashaAllah, MashaAllah. Anything? Yes. My organization is muslimmindscan.org. Muslim Minds Can, CAN, muslimmindscan.org. You can reach me, hanifjwilliams@gmail.com, Hanif J. Williams on all social media. So again, the organization is Muslim Minds, MINDSCAN.org, muslimmindscan.org, Hanif J. Williams@gmail.com, and that's how you can reach me. Go ahead. I'm sorry? It's hypervisibility. I told my daughter when I was on the phone, I said, y'all see everything. I mean, I think that that goes along with what the Sheikh was saying, is that, it's like the fact that, within a few clicks, you're going to be able to see everything. Just like, for instance, today, I took issue with this, they have pictures of Kobe Bryant and his daughter being zipped up inside of a body bag. What is the purpose of that? I mean, we already know what has happened. I mean, what's the purpose of showing that? Do you understand what I'm saying? So there has to be time. There has to be some type of there has to be some type of purpose on there. If they're on there, have many of the du'ats and the shuyukh and the ulama on there. If they're following the accounts of the ulama, or they're following an account that gives general inspiration, general inspiration, then then this is. Then la mushkila, there's no problem with this. But if it's if they're on there following celebrities and Beyonce and doing all of this other stuff. This is not going to benefit them whatsoever. So this has tremendous effects on them, because this also leads to pornography as well too. Because that's what actually, because a few clicks, I'm going to give you an example. So they have a thing on Instagram called the Explore button. The Explore button is exactly what it. So if you look at the Explore button, it's an actual compass with all of the directions taken off. Do you know why? Because it doesn't matter. The message is, it doesn't matter what direction you go, it's fine. But it's an actual compass, as long as you're going somewhere. And this is not how the Muslim lives. So even though they might not know that from that point of view, that's what type of effect it can have on you. So when you click the Explore button, everyone who you are following, that what the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam say, he said, be careful of the friend that you choose, because you are on the, we all know the hadith very well. The hadith is in Muslim and Bukhari. You know what I'm saying? And other sanads too. But the whole point of that, we got to also go back to that too, because it's like the unrestricted thing. So it has to be. She's 13, and my 13-year-old wants to become a doctor. I said, you'll never become a doctor if you're on this kind of stuff. Take that off, delete it. So the whole point about it is that. So we have to give them time and how much time they're spending on it. So within a few clicks, you can find yourself in a completely different world. You know what I mean? And then you can say, how did I even get here? Within a few clicks. Instagram, there was a study done. Facebook, who owns Instagram, had a team of psychologists come in, of women. There was a team of psychologists. The case study was done on women between the ages of, I believe, 18 and 30. And what motions stimulates women's minds? What motions? And this was the motion, going like this. It's just like swiping a credit card. So if you're on Twitter, you're going like this. This is how you scroll, like that. So it's just the same thing as swiping a credit card. Because women like to shop, and all of us know that, you got to give your wife for the Eid. You got to, now my daughters have my credit cards. They just tell me just to sit in the car. We got it. We don't need to be seen with you. I said, but you're going to be seen with my credit card, though. It was like, yes, not you as a person, though. So they did this study, and the women become stimulated because of this particular motion. And it's just like when you swipe in a credit card, it's the same motion that becomes stimulated. So even something like that, even something down to that minute. So they need to spend less time on social media and more time again into the studies, into the tahfidh, there are more people forgetting the Quran than ever before. What I mean forgetting the Quran, we still, alhamdulillah, through the ni'mah of Allah Azza wa Jal, this is Allah Azza wa Jal's promise, people are still memorizing the Quran, but people are forgetting it. Because this kind of stuff makes you forget it if you're constantly looking at, because there's some time we used to be doing muraja'ah. Imam Shafi'i said, al-ilmu muraja'ah. Most of knowledge is based on revising. You should spend most of your time revising, not 6 and 7 hours on social media looking at whatever it is that they're looking at that can't be that much of a benefit. You go look at a scholar's posting something up, he's going to town, you look at something on Inland Empires, have an Instagram, you go there, you check something, you click it and you get off, you mention a few other things, and then you go on about your business. But it can lead to other paths too. And to tell you the truth, this is almost like a drug that doesn't intoxicate you. That's what it is. The notification going off, constantly needing to check your phone. Your phone's all, if you look at our youth, they're like, yes, okay, I'll do that. And you're like, look up, put your phone up. The whole time they're looking at their Facebook and their Instagram, because that bright light is constantly going off, which gives them a purpose of that somebody's paying attention to you. That goes back to that too. When you kind of have to just limit them with that. So, anything else? Any other questions? Speak. وإياك يا شيخ. الحمد لله. Anything else? We're good? We're good? خلاص? Okay. Again, I want to thank everybody for their time. It's been always good coming here. Inshallah, we'll be returning. I believe we're coming here in Ramadan, I think. So, inshallah, y'all don't know how much I love this community. I mean, I traveled all the way from LA to come here. I mean, I just love it. I love it here. And please takirni fi du'ak, inshallah. And please remember us also my part of my team, Haji, he's here. Please, the same for him as well too. I asked him, Haji, to make dua for us in Arabic, and like I said, always mabsoot inni shuftak wallah. This is how I feel inside of my heart, and this is very, very delightful to be here. بإذن الله أقول قولي هذا أستغفر الله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته.